All right, just crazy information flow today. Um, and yes, these videos are going to be posted on separate days. I'm doing one a day, but I guess I'm creating a backlog, make things easier for myself for some reason. Um, okay, I want to talk about past lives again, and specifically gender issues related to that. Um, Now, you might get triggered by this. And if you do, try to remember that a trigger is an opportunity for growth, always. Every time we're triggered, it's because there's something untrue within us that's coming up, right? There's a lie, there's a fear that isn't true that is coming up to be seen. Triggers are gifts, always, 100% of the time. It's showing you a trauma that you have that you can release. It's showing you an untruth, a judgment, a fear, whatever. It's showing you something that you need to see. That's why you're being triggered. And this is something that I've come to accept. It's been hard. It's a hard thing to accept. And the fact that I'm telling you that might also trigger you. So there you go. There's another opportunity. And you may be watching this video at some point in the future because there's not really a lot of subscribers right now. And just realize that this is the best that I knew at the moment, at this moment when I'm making the video, and a lot has happened since then. And I may have a different, more full perspective on this stuff. You know, it seems like these videos will probably be used more in the future than they're used immediately because, you know, there's not a lot of people watching them at the moment, but this might be a year later you're watching this, so I'm doing the best I can. All right, so gender and reincarnation. The first thing that comes up for me is gender identity and how we're experiencing this whole thing right now. And what I think is going on is that people are associating very strongly with the gender they had in a previous life, and they're in resistance to being the other gender in this life, which makes sense. We're in resistance to all kinds of things all the time. And sexual orientation may play into that a little bit. Like, I'm pretty sure that I was a woman in another life. And so now I get hints, sometimes thoughts about a bi-curiosity, right? That comes up for me a little bit occasionally. And I think that for me, at least, it's related to being a woman previously, right? Now, the difference between the two is that gender is very much a black or white thing, like your physical gender. It's one or it's the other. So if we're having this confusion about it, it's probably related to a past life. Sexual orientation, on the other hand, is not black or white. It is, a spectrum of things. So while it could be related to a previous life, like an interest in the same sex could be related to being the opposite sex in a previous life, if that makes sense. I don't think it's just that, right? I think that absolutely some people are just attracted to the same sex, and that's just a thing. And if you have an issue with it, it could be related to something that happened in a past life, like I talked about in a previous video. But the gender thing we're going through in reality right now very much feels like it's a past life association, or like a strong connection to what you were in a previous life, and now you're a different gender this life. And maybe you were a woman, for instance, for a very long time, for many lives, and now you're a man. All of a sudden you're like, what the heck? This doesn't feel right. But you are a man in this life for a reason, to experience this other part of being a human, to experience the other part of that duality. And this phase where we're trying to make physical appearance changes to resolve that is just something we have to work through. It's part of this. It's probably going to result in some trauma for people. I know that it has, where they get older in life and they're like, well, why did I do that? But that's it's part of it. We're all doing the best we can. We have to go through this. And I think it's telling us to say, hey, there's more to this than what we think. It's more than this current life. There's a deeper meaning. There's a deeper thing going on. And so, you know, if you're experiencing that, just be open to that perspective. Maybe it'll help. I don't know. This is not something I've experienced, so I can't talk from experience about that, other than I sometimes feel like I was a woman. Like, so maybe I can. But I don't have an issue with being a man in this life. So I don't really have a perspective on that part of it, where I feel out of place in my body, if that makes sense. I don't feel that. I do recognize that there is also a problem with the very strict kind of gender roles in our society, even now with women taking on more masculine roles in the workplace and things. We still have these underlying things where it's really not okay generally to be a feminine man, for sure. Like, that's not like, oh, you are emotional, and not okay still in a lot of places. Yes, we are starting to accept that, but in, I think, the majority of the US and probably the world, not totally accepted, right? And the same for being a masculine woman. Unless you're gay, then those things are acceptable. So that's kind of an interesting thing we have going on. You can't be straight and have a polarity that's into the opposite gender and that to be acceptable right now. So that's going on too, which I think messes with the whole gender roles confusion that's going on. So we're in a tough spot where we're not totally accepting each other. We're not totally aware of where some of this stuff might be coming from. There's a lot of different things going on all at the same time. If this triggers you, awesome. Look at that. That's not my intention. I'm not telling anyone they're wrong for what they're doing or what they're feeling. I'm just saying be open to the possibility that whatever you're feeling is not so much part of the current reality, but it is attached to a previous life that you experienced. And just see how that lands for you. If it resonates, then I would suggest meditate on it or whatever. It'll continue to unfold. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. You can trust your guidance about what's true for you and what's not. So yeah, I guess that's it for gender and reincarnation. Bye.